Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody got their packets, and I think what we'll do is start going through this. First thing is we will discuss um, we'll go through, and then do we need to make a motion on the minutes from the last meeting, or because we're not a
Yes,
decision-making board, doesn't matter? Okay.
Carolyn, those need to be approved. So you'd need a motion and a second.
Okay, first thing we'll do is somebody can make a motion to approve the minutes from October 23rd, 2025.
This is Kathy. I can make that motion to approve the minutes or this meeting summary.
Thank you, Kathy. And can somebody second?
This is Katie Carlton. I can second.
Perfect. All right. Then next, we will move into discussion based on our last meeting of October and throughout all last summer, where we got together and started working through these policies and procedures. So, first thing is, and I apologize, I just got this packet too on Friday afternoon, and I was gone Friday. And yesterday was crazy. I know I talked to a couple other recorders and they said the same thing. So hopefully we've at least had a chance to somewhat go through this packet, but we'll start with the page up on the board, where, if correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like possibly Phil did the responses to the questions, some of the questions that we had that Jamie Stargell had sent to him. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so we have, I believe there's a working group. And so there was an ICRA discussion on the policies and procedures. And what I've put in the packet was just the responses for Chapter 1. So what you see in this page is going to be the Chapter 1 working group discussion items, and there are tasks, and then there are outstanding questions. And that's for Chapter 1. And then Phil's response is the attachment below this, so that we could go through the ICRA discussions and then his responses to those.
Okay. So don't know if we want to take this one by one, or if we want to go to Chapter 1 and go from there. I guess, Kathy, do you have a preference how we tackle this?
I don't. I guess, Jamie, I would just ask you, unless you want to go over what you specifically want to point out, Jamie Hoffman.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the ICRA discussion items that we have here, there's a lot of feedback. There's some overall requests which I am putting into, a to-do list after, this call based on any other feedback provided. So there's overall just suggested changes. One is clarifying within the policy and procedures who owns the database and the images. So with that in mind, I am going to, Phil did address that, but I'm going to send that over to Brick Gentry for a statement that we can use to add into the policies and procedures under the authority section. The other overall, feedback on that was the Finance and Standards Committee, how they get nominated and selected for the committee. And so there is, a little bit of information on that from Phil as well in his feedback. And then after that, it would be very focused on the individual, items in the chapters. And I think that we would be able to go through that a little bit more in a working chapter document which I'm happy to go through. And so there are different tasks that were outlined in chapter 1 as well. So you'll see where the top of the page where it says chapter 1, and those were items for tasks and updating chapter 1. The first one is discuss the option of using search without creating an account. And we have discussed that. I don't know if you had previous conversations about that, but we are removing the option of searching without creating an account because the authentication process of that is required for security standards. We also have removed the website promotion fees, and that was something that was addressed in Phil's feedback as well.
You're removing the idea of advertising. Is that what you said?
Remove website promotion fees. Yeah,
Oh,
and so
okay.
that appears to be the feedback. And so again, this part is just the ICRA discussion items, and then there's Phil's feedback, and then we can go into Phil's feedback on each one of these if that makes more sense.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I guess we could do this a couple ways. One is we can go through and just kind of give an update, or we can go see whatever questions maybe we can that we still have, maybe address. Jamie, are you open to addressing them if we still have the questions, maybe?
Yeah, sure. I think if you don't mind, I think I'll just share the working file with you.
Sure.
And I think it'd be just a little bit easier to go through it that way with all of these things considered, and definitely would like to go into the first memo. So I believe in yours, Kristen, could you go down to the first memo so everybody could get to that right page?
I'm not sharing my screen, sorry.
Oh, you're not? Oh,
No,
I'm looking at
is that you or
Samantha's screen.
Samantha?
No worries. I'm going to go ahead
Thanks.
and share my screen. But I do need somebody to give me the ability to do that.
Okay, Jamie, if you want to go ahead and share, I just made you the host.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, can everybody see the Word document that I'm scrolling on?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'll just start in chapter 1. Specifically, one of the things that we added was this county e-submission API. We know that we've moved into a new API. We just want a definition around that in that definition section. So we've added the county e-submission API here. And we've also added the county upload API under the definitions as well.
Okay.
So those are really simple changes. I know that this is all from the simple change memo. Let me bring up the memo. And then we have another small update here, which is removing Recorders Association transfer module from this local service provider maintenance cost and switching that out with county upload API. And just, you can stop me if you want to talk about any of these changes.
So can I pause for a second? This is
Sure.
Jamie Sturgill. So I just want to make sure it's clear to everyone. So Jamie and I went through the policies and procedures that the working group did, right? And so we came up with this list, which is the first memo that Jamie is going through, of what we feel are easy changes, cleanup things that either the ICRA committee worked on or just things that as we worked through with Phil in Enterprise Iowa, like the API stuff, like these are hopefully easy changes that we can make immediately to the policies and procedures. And then there's a second memo of, changes that are somewhat major updates. And what Jamie's going through now is the easier things that we think we can fix currently and what we're hoping we can accomplish today.
And Jamie, when you say that, and Jamie number two, when you say that, you're talking about the July 23rd letter that was addressed to us in the packet. Is that accurate?
Yes, so there's two memos in the packet. This one is regarding policies and procedures, chapter 1, simple updates. This is what Director Jamie is going through right now, are the simple updates that we think are just easy ones that we can go ahead and approve today.
Okay.
There are some changes that we recognize, Jamie and I and Phil, that we didn't necessarily discuss in the ICRA group that we thought we needed to get updated and changed, like those APIs.
Okay, so that's that. Okay, yeah, I just want to point that out, is that because I noticed reading through here, there's several things that I don't recall we discussed, and obviously I didn't have time to go back through everything to look at. And we don't have this memo with the updated stuff in it. I mean, we have the memo, but we don't have the actual policy and procedures with these updates that Jamie's showing us on the screen. So nobody's missing it in their packet. We just don't have it.
Okay,
So
so does that make
somebody's
sense to everyone? Kind of what we're trying to accomplish, hopefully. We're trying to make
This
it
is
easy. I know it's muddy. Anyway, it's a huge project, but we're trying to make it somewhat as simplified as we can.
this is Nancy. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Go ahead, Nancy.
When it's recording fees, this is a definition. Are you talking about what's going to show on our e-submitted documents? Correct? I mean, it's not going to be a total on our e-submission fee that includes that electronic recording fee, correct?
This is just changing the definition in chapter 1.
Right. I think
Okay.
Nancy's asking about how it's going to look on our electronic documents.
Shouldn't be changing that to my knowledge.
Yeah, it's just updating a definition.
Yeah.
The process of what's currently happening, Nancy, will stay the same.
Okay. Thank you.
So
Yeah, no
what's shown on the e-subs now, the fees on the e-subs now won't change. It'll still be, the breakdown will still be the same.
Yeah, it'll be the same. This is just updating the definition to reflect what's really currently happening.
Okay. It just was the word combined that concerned me because we talked about it before to not have the ILR fee included with anything. So I just want to make sure that wouldn't change it. Thank you.
Yep, it doesn't change the current process.
Jamie, can you enlarge your screen at all?
Yeah, let's see. Does that help?
Keep going if you can. Okay, that's better. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, no problem. Okay, well, Jamie, thanks for that overview. I think that That makes a lot of sense. I'm glad that you talked about that a little bit. It has been quite the process for the last couple of months in reviewing policies and procedures in current state and reviewing the ICRA feedback and also reviewing Phil's feedback. And so, yeah, we're going through this and consolidating all the feedback specifically so we can move it forward for this meeting. So I'll move on.
Jamie,
yeah.
can you go back to that definition, actually, because did it say combined fee or no?
It was just adding and the electronic recording fee.
Okay, but the combined fees charge, I think Nancy's, I see why Nancy was questioning that. I don't know if we want to take a look at that definition again, or if it matters.
Okay. Let's see. We can.
I think this is just trying to be a definition for all recording fees. So the electronic recording fee is included in that through the e-submission service. Like, it's not changing the stamp. It's just saying, like, this is all of the recording fees associated with recording a document.
But the e-sub fee isn't a recording fee. It's more like a convenience fee type of thing. And I think that maybe that's what Nancy was trying to clarify.
Yeah, because we had talked about that in past meetings. So, thank you, Carolyn.
Mhm. So I think that definition, we might need to look at that again.
Okay. Let's see here. So I'm just doing a find on recording fees for everywhere that it's actually displayed in Chapter 1 to give us an idea of what that definition means at the top. So there is a recording fee, $3 per recorded document.
Go back up one where you were just before
Okay.
that.
Yep. Revolving cash fund flow balance.
Okay, so it says to timely distribute recording fees. So I think we're just trying to make clear that we're not talking about the ILR fee that's charged for the ability to do e-submission.
Is that the $3 fee?
Yes.
Yes, and that we don't get that. So you wouldn't distribute, that wouldn't be part of the recording fees that you distribute. So I think
Right.
that's where I'm questioning.
Okay. And the electronic recording fee. It seems to me that the recording fee is general because it's not looking at where the transaction takes place, if it's online or if it's at the county office, county recorder's office. So it seems to be a general description, in my opinion.
But where you are now, it's separated. See, it says for required recording fees and any electronic recording fees.
Yes.
So that is
Yeah.
separating it, which as it should be.
Okay. And so go back up to the top again. Oh, sorry. Combined fees charged by county. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
which in that definition, how it starts out, the combined fees charged by a county for recording a document. So the county does not charge the electronic recording fee.
Right,
So that
right,
whole
Kathy.
definition is yeah, it's when you added the electronic recording fee in there, that's not what the county charges. So it's two different things. So yeah, I agree too that we should probably take that back out.
Well,
I mean, you
aren't
can
they talking
delineate it
about
by
the,
say the e-submission fee. But
well, isn't it that $1 e-com? I mean, we in our county we've always called it the e-commerce fee.
but that's
Document-
different. That's their document management fee you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, there's $1 for document management and $1 for e-commerce.
This is different, Jane. They're talking about the $3
But I thought yeah, right. But I think
we don't charge that.
I realize that. But when they're saying the document fees charged by a county, I feel like that's what they're referring to. Or possibly. I guess that's how I read it. Doc management fee $1 and the e-commerce fee $1. So maybe it should just be clarified.
Yeah, if
rather
you change
than
the word.
Yeah, right, yeah. Because it can be interpreted two ways, obviously.
okay. I've made a note for that. And so let me take that back to the drawing board and see if we can come up with something better for that. Do you want to move on to the next item?
Well, do you know both Jamies, which fee are you referring to when you're talking about this electronic recording fee? Are you talking about the e-fund $1 or the $3 that Iowa Land Record charges?
This is Lisa. In my opinion, it's the $3 e-submission fee. That's what the electronic recording fee is.
Okay.
So if you just change it to the e-commerce fee, would that clarify it?
Nancy, I think e-commerce is something different.
We refer to it as the e-commerce fee, that extra dollar that we give. So I don't know.
I guess I don't feel like the $3 is part of a recording fee. Because we still get a lot of stuff over the counter and in the mail. And that's not, when I quote fees to people, I would separate that out. I'd say that,
Right.
So it's Lisa, what if this says in the electronic recording fee for electronically recorded documents or
yeah,
similar?
I would, yeah, that would totally clarify it, I think.
Okay.
But it still says charged by a county, and
The
the county
county record,
doesn't
yeah, true.
charge it.
Or put and the electronic fee charged by Iowa Land Records?
That would be better.
And we'd want it to say electronic services system, not ILR.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, as long as it's.
Or maybe it doesn't belong in recording fees definition. I'm not sure. Maybe it could have its own definition
right.
too.
I agree with that as well.
There is a separate definition for electronic recording fee.
Because as you pointed out further down, the fees that we collect wouldn't include that. Or the fees that are refunded to us or distributed to the recorder.
Okay, and up here is the electronic recording fee definition that Jamie was mentioning.
Yeah, so if you refer to electronic recording fee in this paragraph we're talking about, that is the $3.
Yeah, so it doesn't need to be included in that recording
Not in
fee.
recording.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, true.
It's its own thing.
Okay.
So I guess my recommendation would be to strike that, Jamie,
Okay.
and then we'll just make note of that in this memo so we can move on.
Okay. The next item is the updating URLs. There's a lot of URLs that were based on the previous URL, public URL process. So instead of having portal, it's just, you remove the portal and it's just the iowalandrecords.org because that's where you would have to go for establishing an account. And then we have the submitter. The submitter is somebody who would, record those documents. They would have to log in order to submit electronic documents. So that's taking them the URL to the login page. The unregistered user, there's been a lot of back and forth on the unregistered user. Specifically, this is going to be a public user on the system. And again, that was an update to the URL to be the iowalandrecords.org URL. And it just kind of states here that an unregistered user will not have authorization to access images of recorded documents, submit electronic documents for recording, or receive other information or services reserved only for registered users or submitters. Everybody, who is doing these additional submissions or searches would need to log in as an authorized user. So this was rewritten a little bit, and everything that was changed is kind of, is definitely put over to the side under track changes. If you had any feedback, I'm open to that.
Oh, this is Carolyn. I have a question about that. Is only on the site. Anybody that has, submitting stuff, I totally get. But so the search side, I guess. I know that we've talked about this and this isn't new, but what security or abuse risk? Why? I guess because Tot, Fiddler, they don't require logins to view documents like via website searches. And I guess I don't know of any security risk that there was. Can you elaborate what's changed or why that's coming about? Just on
Yeah.
the search side.
Yeah, Lisa would probably have more feedback on this, but just as a newcomer into the system, it's just something that you would typically do, for any kind of search or to access documents. That's, like I said, a security issue to allow people to search up anything, to use your forms, to download images or download any files at all. It's something that I would recommend that you know who the user is and that they are a valid user. I think one part of having something publicly available like this is the fact that there are a lot of bots out there. And is just opening yourself up to being, you know, further vulnerabilities and being, you know, hacked or something to that, you know, accord. I think that there were probably a number of there have been a number of issues where people can download all types of documents, which could, you know, impact, you know, the processing on the server as well if you were being hacked by multiple bots. And
Do they have access to a server?
as long as it's public. So that's why we want to keep this behind a login. So if a user is logging in, we know that they're a valid user and they're an authorized user who can go in and download files. But if you were to keep this on a public site where, you know, any, you know, robot could go out there and enter in a ton of search criteria and download a lot of files, it really could put a big strain on the servers and the system. And that's without even having security as an issue here. But I would recommend having it behind a login for that reason.
I mean, I guess it is a public site, though. It is,
yeah.
So public access, public site. I mean, they should be able to download whatever they want to.
Right, but it could be anything that comes onto the website. In terms of it may not even be a real human user, you know, that's going onto the website. There could be multiple instances going on. So that's why from a security perspective, it is safer to keep that behind a login. But like I said, I don't know the full history. My recommendation would be to continue to have them log in for that purpose.
Jamie, you're absolutely correct. That was put in place because of the number of bots that we experienced using the site. And that's also the reason there is a limit to the number of images that users can download daily. We do have the option to give them more if they request that. But we found people that were downloading 1,000 documents a day, and in most cases, those were bots that were doing that.
I guess, is that like illegal, or I mean, I don't understand I mean, unless there's 1,000, you're having issues with 1,000 bots, is that just because you have so much availability of people hitting the website, or?
It would be a system load, correct, Jamie?
Right. I mean, something like that could take down a server and make the system unavailable. And that's why, you know, having, you know, the ability to stop, you know, a user or a bot from downloading thousands of documents in a minute, you know, you think about what the processing time would be for any system, you know. So if you go to download a big file or, you know, multiple files, it takes your system a little bit of time to push that data back to the user on the other side. So imagine that we have 10 bots trying to download 1,000 documents, you know, and the it will overload a system, you know, to have that available because of all of the downloads at once. And so then this people who really need to use the system can't because it's unavailable. So this is another reason why it's so important to keep that security in place, because when you know that the person accessing the documents is an actual user or an organization, a user for an organization, but really it's for the security and the well-being of the system to be stable.
I just want to make sure that we're not restricting, because our code requirement is we allow free public access to all documents, not a limited number of documents.
There are a couple comments in the chat that Katie Carlton chimed in that COT does now ask for a login on their updated search site. And then Ann Ditzworth also commented asking if Health and Human Services has login requirements, and they do have a login on their page. So I just don't know if everybody can see the chat, but those are the comments.
Doesn't COT still just have guest login and then you hit enter?
Can you hear me?
I mean, I don't
Can you
care.
hear
I just
me?
want to make sure we're not restricting access because
Can you,
we are required to allow.
Carolyn?
Yeah.
Sorry, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Katie.
Okay, there it is. They're transitioning away from eSearch eventually to Record Hub, which we've already switched over. And everyone is required to have a login. Documents that we do are still free and you can access whatever you want, but you do have to create a login to get in. So
Thanks, Katie.
you're welcome.
I just want to make sure we're not restricting access and that if somebody wants, for whatever reason, all the records, that they can get them and not be limited because we are required to give free access.
Yes, it is completely free. I know it's set up that it could have a subscription because other states need that set up that way. But when you get into mine, there's no charge. They can print as many as they want. They just have to have a login so that we know that they're a real person, I guess. And then I'm kind of with Jane. You know, I want to be able to, I don't know, having a list of registered users, if something goes wrong, it's nice to know like these are your potential people that have access to it. So if somebody did do something, then you have a list. I don't know.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I just don't like the idea of ILR limiting it, which it kind of sounds limited, but we have a lot of sovereign citizens who would come unglued.
But how many can a single person print in a day? Like, what's the limit?
Right. And I don't know. And I'm not judging that. I'm just want to make sure that we're not
Has
running
anyone?
afoul of the law.
Yeah, I agree. Have there been any complaints or like has anyone said anything about not being able to get as many as they want?
It's Lisa. So in the focus group, when the new website was being developed, we talked to both individual and business users. All users have unlimited searches and index views. Individual users, so the person doing genealogy or checking on their neighbor's house, those people can look at up to 10 images per day. That's what the focus group agreed would be acceptable. Business users, again, unlimited searches and index views and up to 120 images per day per user on each account. So as an example, Green State probably has 50 to 100 users. Each one of them can look at up to 120 images per day. We have a specific form that they can submit requesting access to additional images per day. We probably process 2 or 3 of those a day. There's a counter on the website that shows this is how many views you have remaining. Did I say 2 or 3 of those forms a day? It's probably more like 2 or 3 a month. And we're really easy to work with as far as what are you doing this for, those kind of things. We want to make sure it's a good thing. It's the people that are working on a easement project with the DOT. They need to check all the sections, those kind of things. I don't believe we have ever turned anyone down for additional views that has asked, but we do need that security in place.
Thank you, Lisa.
And so for this unregistered user definition, there, was a recommendation by Phil just to remove it completely. I feel like this still covers a definition for a public user, though. And so I believe that that is still an audience that goes to the website and it should be included. I'm open to removing it, but I kept it in here and just updated the description of the definition. So Do you have any thoughts, Carolyn? Should we just remove it or should we keep it in there? What do you think? What do you think about that?
We could just leave it in there and say reserved in case, or we could leave it in there if you just want to clarify what an unregistered user looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you, Jamie, that there might be an absence of no definition, just knowing what an unregistered user is fine with me.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready to move on to the next one?
I think so.
All right. Okay, in this particular item, the authority and purpose, like I said, there was feedback from the ICRA group that we'd like to receive the written statement from Brick Gentry on who owns the database and the images. And I know in Phil's feedback, he specifically mentioned that it was not, his company. It's definitely Iowa Land Records or Electronic Services System. And if that were to ever, um, you know, uh, be broken up or whatever, that it would go into the selected counties in which that data came from. So that is something that I'll work with Brick Gentry to obtain. And we can talk about that in our next meeting as far as if we want to use that statement or add an item under authority and purpose for the ownership of the database and the images.
That sounds good. We just kind of table it until you get something back.
Yeah, I thought if we wanted to talk about it more, we certainly could, but it'd be great to get their feedback on that. All right, and okay, and so the failed payment service fee in this particular situation, um, the bank that we use has changed their service fee charge to us. And so we do not want to put an amount in here because it really corners us into that amount, of course, and being able to charge when we're being charged more than the amount that was listed in the policies and procedures. So that's an issue, of course. We want to be able to charge what it costs for us from, the bank charge. And if it's something that requires a lot of back and forth on or to communicate, we want to make sure that we are covered in the costs that, ILR is being charged for. It seems silly that it was something less than what we were charged from the bank when, this submitter provided, bad payment type or didn't have the amount ready on the credit card to be charged. And so in that case, we were definitely costed us. And so we want to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Nope, I agree.
So
I mean, I agree. You guys don't want to lose money, and we did discuss taking out a number. So whatever it is for the bank, we don't have to keep coming back to update this. My question is, is there a reason we would say at least and not the service fee charge? Is there time that you would want to charge more than what the service fee is?
I don't know. I think that at least the service fee charged to ESS is good. I think that if there's any other reason to charge more, it would be great to have the ability to do that. Like, what if it cost us money from legal fees or anything like that? I'm not sure. I think I just wanted to make sure that we were covered in those cases, but I can switch it back to say shall be the service fee if that makes more sense.
Does anybody else? I don't want to be the only one. I was just questioning why that was the at least part was there. Does anybody else have any thoughts on this? Okay, I don't think so.
I'm okay with the way it's written right now, just because
Okay.
I get it in case, or sometimes you can have to go through a sheriff's office to get the money from them and stuff, and if they charged you something.
True. So yeah, I agree. I'm so
Okay.
we can leave that, Jamie.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's just there are situations that I think are going to happen where we'll be charged more by another party. And yeah, thank you. All right, I'll move on. Let's see here. Okay, and this is going to require additional conversation too. I have spent time, or I've gone into like the last year of standards committee meeting notes. And so I have seen that this has been something that was proposed previously. It'd be great to get, feedback on this, which is the qualification of members for the coordinating committee. And one of the changes there would be to expand um, that 5 to 10 counties with the highest population based on the most recent official US Census. Um, and so that would be a change. And as long as this is a change, I know it would impact the 28E agreement. So again, additional conversation that I would need to have with Brick Gentry on the 28E agreement and how it would impact that. But that is one of the changes up for discussion from the second memo with the major changes.
I guess I'm fine as long as we're going to be having more discussions with that. I'm fine with that being in there. I guess I don't know that we had as a group discussed limiting terms to having people not be on two major board deciding committees. So the say three recorders aren't making decisions for the association and based on the two committees to just kinds of allowing for more cross representation. So as long as this is just an option still, I have no problem with leaving that in there for right now.
And I'm good to expanding it to the top 10 because, or 10 instead of 5, because if you only have 5 recorders to choose from, I mean, they could be then on multiple committees and I don't know. It just give more to pull from if you change it to the top 10.
I agree. And I would like to have more recorders in on things to decide instead of just a core group for everything all the time.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll keep that in there. And then this is another area that also needed to be updated if we're going to go from 5 to 10, which is under the nominations and elections 1.63, where we would want to have 10 here. And I just have a note here that it's also in the 28E agreement specifically around this item. So same change, just different area. This in particular, let me go back here quick. The termination of appointment. And again, I don't know if this has ever happened before, but one thing on here is that it's not very specific in terms of what habitually absent means, or that they fail to participate. So there's just a little bit more definition, which basically says the suggested change would be ESS committee members are expected to attend at least 75% of all ESS meetings, and a majority of the meetings which are designated by the ESS chair as a hosted in-person meeting. So there's, a change in terms of defining the habitually absent.
Personally, I'm good with that.
I'm good with the 75%.
Great. I see Jane says I agree.
So
Nellis,
does Naomi and Katie.
Is that Naomi, the Nellis?
Yep. Yep, that
Okay.
is.
I'm just calling people their screen names. Katie, I agree. Okay, great. Okay, let's see here. The meeting notices, and they're posted on our site. Again, the redesigned URL, we're in the middle of doing our public site redesign. That URL will be under meetings and reports. And we've changed this from the State Association of Counties at 5500 Westtown Parkway to be at our office, just to make sure that these meetings are posted publicly.
I agree with that, and I'm fine with that personally. I didn't know if this would be a section where we could add like the agenda be posted at a minimum of 24 hours prior to the meeting, and if we could talk about also a time frame for when the packets for the meetings come out.
Okay. Let's see. I think
I
that's
don't know
in
if there's a
here.
better place or if we put it in here, but I didn't find necessarily where that, if we had anything in policy and procedure about timeframes.
I know I read it. So this is kind of driving me a little crazy because I thought I saw it in here around here. Okay, well, I can take this as an action item to review that, to make sure that it's in here. I guess, what are your thoughts, Carolyn, in terms of timing?
So I think that I think most state code for like board of supervisors meetings type of stuff is it has to be posted 24 hours in advance and like a publicly available place or on a website type of thing, and I'm fine with that. Packets, I'm not really sure how much they're regulated. I guess personally, and anybody can chime in here, is like, well, I'll just take this for instance. We got it on a Friday afternoon and it's 100 and some pages. Well, if I'm out Friday and we're busy on Fridays and Mondays, is this something that we want to be able to have? Does anybody have enough time to view it all?
I would recommend like 5 business days for getting the packet, 5 business days prior to the meeting, just to give us time to read through it all. Anyone else have any ideas of a good amount of time?
I think a 5 days, business days is a good place to start for that.
Okay. I can do some research on that. I know I've read the 24-hour rule. It might be in the 28E specifically. And it might not be in the policies and procedures since we refer to 28E so much. But I can do some research on that and bring it back to our next meeting if you'd like.
And
that would be great.
Okay.
Just another thing too with letting people know about the meetings, and it doesn't have to be in the policies or anything, but like just a reminder for everybody that's on a committee to try to email your district out the meeting information and Zoom and stuff? Because when I was a new recorder, I had no idea about the hub and where to find all the stuff on the Iowa Land Records website. And I know we're getting a bunch of new recorders again. So if we can try to include them on emails and stuff to send stuff out to them to try to get them involved.
Hey, Kathy, it's Lisa. We have already had some internal discussion about orienting those new recorders. But for the rest of it, I think that really comes down to the district president or you as committee members to, distribute this, because otherwise it gets into, okay, who's going to do this? And sometimes efforts are duplicated.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I know. I think it was yesterday I emailed the stuff out to District 1, but yeah.
Also, everyone can sign up to receive meeting notifications so they know when there's a meeting going on. And that's an easy process. We'd be happy to assist anyone who wanted more information, but those always go out at least 24 hours before the meeting.
Yes, and this is Kristen. I want to chime in too with the update with the website. We're hoping will help with some of this. We always have a link on our calendar where you can sign up and it sends you an automated message with a link to these meetings. So even if you're not on the committee, it's a public meeting you can attend. But our support email is also another great resource that if for whatever reason you're not getting that email, or you can't find that information, you can let us know. But we have that events calendar on our website. And then the accountability and reporting page is where our agenda is posted. And I did just want to chime in with the sharing the packet. I think 5 days is a good goal. But I know at least with finance, there may be some challenges with getting updated numbers within that time frame. So I'm sure we'll have more discussion on that later, but uh, we definitely have had a lot of discussions, especially with this website redesign and how to make that information easier to find. And as Lisa mentioned, we discussed putting together more materials for training for any new recorders.
Kristen, I have one question about that. And I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. Do the links to the packet on the website or just the agenda?
Both are on there. We have
Both are. Okay. I thought so,
Yep.
but I wanted to be sure.
Yep. You have to go to that web page to find it. We have a section that links you to the agenda, the packet, the meeting summary when we get it posted or finished, and a link to the recording. And in addition, we have a YouTube site or a YouTube page for our meetings. You could also subscribe to that page and get a notification anytime we post a meeting recording there as well.
Thanks, Kristen.
Okay. The next three changes that I have here are pretty simple. They're just URL updates for our new site. So this is, it doesn't have accountability and reporting as a URL anymore. Instead, it goes to meetings reports. And so those are the changes on 1.612, 13, and then on 14, it just showed the old address in Johnston. So we have updated that to our new office address. And then the last item on here is specifically around the teleconference expense reimbursement. I don't know. I think this has been part of the policies and procedures for a while, but I removed that. It doesn't seem like this happens very often. And I think that it was just kind of one of those older rules in the policies and procedures that no longer apply. But definitely want to get your thoughts on removing the teleconference expense reimbursement.
I guess I'm new enough. I don't even recall it. So I'm fine with that.
I'm like, I don't think this happens.
This one was actually recommended by the ICRA committee that worked on it, was to review it and possibly strike it from the policies and procedures. And it was basically saying that, Iowa Land Records would charge the ICRA board for using their teleconference, which we don't utilize that service. ICRA does not, through Iowa Land Records.
Striking it seems logical.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I agree.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, the 1.8 administration update just removes project manager from 1.8.1 and 1.8.2. And so that's what you're seeing here in terms of the changes, project manager to executive director or the administrator. And I did not mean to delete these duties. It goes to 1.8. So this would be the only change, is the update to the project manager to executive director. And we do not have a communications subcommittee active right now, but we are reserving this section.
That sounds good.
Okay. And then some small change here where we were using paychecks, and we were actually specifically naming the HR vendor that we were using. And so when we switched over to Connectify and Emeritus for the 401k and things like that, updated this to be a little bit more general to say the current human resource vendor.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that way you don't have to update it every time you switch to a different vendor. And again, this is switching out project manager to the executive director under that software asset determination under 1.131A. And that is specifically about defining the software assets to be developed and to create the software asset itself.
Jamie, I do have one question, and it might be semantics, but is there a reason that sometimes you use administrator / executive director and sometimes just executive director? Is there a difference?
I don't think there is a difference. I think it's just a title difference. Really, the administrator has always, I think, as it appears, has been part of the policies and procedures. So the administrator was a position, and we know that Phil was a project manager that was contracted to fulfill the administration position. And so I think that's why it was in there that way, since he was doing the administrator work since the inception of the system and the organization. So I just left administrator in there and just switched out project manager to executive director.
I mean, if we're updating and there is no separate administrator, we could probably get rid of administrator as well.
Okay.
Anybody else have thoughts on that? Seems to me just to be more clear.
Okay.
Executive director.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. Let me go ahead and just make a note where I see this administrator verbiage, and I'll go through and search for all the instances and make sure that's updated. Okay. All right, so I think that is about all of the changes that we had to review in Chapter 1. And let's see here, that should have covered both of the memos. Okay, and then I think what I'll do, do we have the committee's approval for most of these other than this recording fee update, which we talked about removing that? Could we get an approval with an exception to this?
I would make approval with the exception to that and the fact that we're going to go back to, even though we all tentatively agree that 10-member top 10 by population instead of 5, we're going back to that just to clarify, correct?
Right, and that is in this major updates discussion
Oh,
item
okay.
because I knew it would be a really big change and we would not be able to get approval without further discussion. And so I put that in the major updates, but this would be approval for the simple updates, which is the definitions, the failed payment service fee, which impacts our business now, of course, the URL updates, and all of the address updates that we talked about. Yeah, and the URIAN and paychecks to human sources vendor. So that's mainly what these simple updates approval would be. So I think this is the only one that we really had a discussion around removing the electronic recording fee.
I will make a motion to approve.
This is Kathy. I'll second it.
All those in favor? Can I even make a motion being as,
Yeah, you can as
oh,
chair.
okay,
Yes.
thanks, Kathy. And it looks like Naomi, Katie, and Jane, I'll say aye as well.
Perfect. Okay. Great. Thank you for going through that. And yeah, I think that's the main items from the agenda. There were just a couple other items here. The other discussion items are under action and discussion items of the agenda. We have project updates. The notification system is in the middle of development. It's going great. We're still looking at an October launch date for that. And we have our website public pages redesign update. I think that most of you should probably know about that. I think some are actually in our focus group that are on the call. So we're pretty excited to see that come to fruition, and we're looking at August launch date for that.
Jamie, a reminder that there's a webinar for recorders. I believe it's tomorrow morning for a walkthrough.
Thanks, Lisa.
Great.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll record that. So if you can't attend.
Great. Yeah. And that way everybody can catch up with what that looks like with the redesign. It looks really good. And then I just had some questions around the standard subcommittee purpose and meeting frequency. As I'm getting, I'm newer, so all the committees are definitely learning a lot about them. When it comes to the standard subcommittee purpose, is it mainly to look through, our standards in terms of the policies and procedures, along with data standards for the system? I guess I just wanted to get your and Carolyn and Kathy, your thoughts on, and anybody else on the committee, really, your thoughts on, what we're doing in the standards committee.
I mean, I know I saw somewhere in there about removing this committee. I think that sometimes this committee, because we don't technically, we refer everything to another committee. But I have seen good purpose, and we've had meaningful, purposeful discussions that have come out of this. Helps with understanding. Um, especially if we're going through stuff like this, just to be able to understand it and talk about it, especially like me being in my first term as a new recorder. How did some of this develop? Where did it come from? But I think that this committee, as well as any committee, that is what you get out of it. So, but I do feel that it provides some type of service, especially when we're doing updates such as these, just to get different eyes on things. I don't know anybody else. What do you guys think? Okay, well, crickets.
I know. Oh, there she is.
I think it's important to have this committee just also another set of eyes on all the policies. And then we also, I mean, like after the meetings and stuff, I kind of give a recap to my district and tell everybody to, if they have any concerns or whatever, to let me know so I can bring it up then at the next meeting. Just the more we can get the information out to recorders, because I know a lot of recorders are just too busy to get on some of these meetings. It's just helpful to have more opinions on the policies and procedures.
And I guess if we don't end up, having a committee that maybe, and especially since we have so many new recorders, comparatively for a long time, it was a lot of the same recorders, but we've had a lot of retirements over the past 4 years, that maybe something like this is really good to just even go over. I didn't know for a long time that this even existed.
Yeah,
so maybe looking at it from an association approach, like at an ICRA meeting or something.
Okay, that makes sense. And then how often does this committee typically meet? Is it also quarterly, Carolyn?
It has not been consistent, Jamie. It was so like we met more often when we were going through code for legislation and the agreements, and then we didn't meet as often. So for this board, it's more of as needed.
Okay.
Yeah, I would suggest though at least twice a year. I mean, to the 4 times.
Yeah, I think somewhere between at least twice a year to quarterly is probably a good idea, just to touch base, even if we don't have much.
Yeah, I feel like in just the last 3 months that I've been here, the amount of changes that I saw in chapter 1, I mean, some of them were older changes, but some of them are brand new changes, just from going through it, that things have changed a little bit, where you need to change that.
So it's
Yeah,
Lisa,
go ahead.
historically, there's standards subcommittee before ESS so that they could recommend changes to ESS for approval. So if the next, on the regular schedule, ESS would meet in November, so standards would have been scheduled in October and then again in January.
Got it. So the October 27th date that I have here, does that work for everybody?
October 27th?
Yeah. Hopefully that's not a Saturday or Sunday.
Nope, it's a Tuesday.
Okay, good.
And it works for me as of right now for sure. So I'll pencil that in.
Okay.
Works for me.
And then Jamie, to clarify, are we going to be going over the rest of the chapters at that point, or what is the next steps here as far as the packet that we got?
Yeah, so the next steps would be to review any final changes to chapter 1, follow up on any information I was supposed to research, and then start with chapter 2. I'm very hopeful that after the first couple of chapters, which are just a little bit thicker than the other chapters of the policies and procedures, that we'll be able to do 2 chapters or 3 chapters at a time together. I think that just the first couple of times it'll take a little bit longer because the chapters have more information in them for updates. So the idea is that we're going through the policies and procedures, of course, and anything else that might be brought up, that is a higher priority for the standards subcommittee.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Well, I think that's all that I had really to bring up in the agenda today.
Thank you, Jamie, so much for going through this with all of us and giving us insight. Does anybody else have anything for the meeting today? If not, can I get a motion to adjourn? Katie says, nope, thank you all. And thank you, Carolyn, for leading. Anybody want to make a motion? Anne makes the motion to adjourn. And do I have a second?
I'll make a second. This is Kathy.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And I hope today goes well. We'll talk to you all later.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.